after spending over 35 years in the corporate music industry, I started my own company. And so I developed a methodology that is based on two questions. And the two questions are, first of all, is what is a song? Which I define as your voice, your lyrics, and your melody. The integration of those three things, okay? And then the second question is the kicker. It's how do you develop? You develop by changing something in your body, your mind, and your soul. And so those become the 6 tools for your life, for the creation of your life and your art. Is that if you want your songs to be great, then you're going to have to work on your voice, your stories, which are your lyrics, and your melody, which are your emotions. Okay? And in order to make all 3 of those great, you're going to have to work on your body, your mind, and your soul for the rest of your life. I have been developing and teaching songwriters for over 35 years now. And so a lot of it was on-the-job training of what worked and what didn't work at the very beginning. But when I left Warner Chappell Music, which was the last corporate job I had, and started my own company, I really sat down and came up with what I believed in the principles of my life. I had been on my own journey and had been changing a lot of things in my life in order to go from corporate America to running my own company. There was a lot of lessons that I learned. And so I took all of these lessons and I broke it down. And I realized, I had an epiphany one evening that, we experience this life in 3 ways: the body, mind, and soul. And so if I want something to change, then I have to change something in my body, mind, and soul, meaning that if I want to be happier, then maybe I should go take care of the back problems that I have. That could be contributing to not being as happy as I could be. Little things like that you all of a sudden look at your life. I actually lost my voice through an illness that I had. I had Graves' disease and I had to take radioactive iodine. That completely, they just ruined my vocal cords and I couldn't sing. And so I had to learn to re-sing. I had to learn how to make sound because that's all I could do. So that journey led me to, wow, everyone needs to take care of their voice, because when you can't sing, when you can't use your voice in the manner, because this is your power, then it hinders your life, it hinders your career. So the voice becomes extremely powerful as a tool, because if you're not using it in the correct way and using your words the correct way and using your emotions, then you're not going to get what you want. I use the old adage, if you walk into a McDonald's and you scream at the waitress, I want a hamburger. Well, you're not going to she's probably going to spit on it, if she does get you one. Miles Copeland, who managed the Police and the Go-Go's, he bought a villa in France, and this was 25, 30 some years ago. And he decided that he would start having these songwriting retreats, and he would have all of his songwriters and artists, and then he had other publishing companies come and bring their writers. And so we did it one year, and I loved the concept. It was a little bit chaotic at the castle, but the next year when my bosses came and said, would you like to do it again? I said, yes, and I want the money that you spent on that, and I want to do it myself. And so I started putting on songwriting retreats for Warner Chappell. When we went to the retreat, it was a combination of a lot of different, different writers from different companies and so forth, which was wonderful. But I wanted to concentrate on the writers that we had. And so I started doing retreats, and I started bringing in a couple of country writers, and a couple of rock writers, and a couple of Latin writers, and a couple of R&B writers, and then mixing everybody up and taking everybody away for a week, and away from, and of course at this point there were no cell phones, but away from, the responsibility of life, so they could just concentrate and get out of their own way, learn a new perspective. What I do for them is that I give them a simulation of what life really needs to look like if they want to go forward. Okay? So the journey is, you know, every songwriter will tell you, you know, I write songs and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but you know, I'm not sure if I'll ever get there, and I don't know if the business, you know, there is no business anymore, and there's not a lot of opportunities, and that keeps you right here. But if you can get them moving forward, you know, and I do that by questions. I do that by challenging them. I do that by exercises. By giving them homework and videos, everything designed to open them, because I first have to open them to new possibilities, and then I put in new possibilities. What about this, and what about that, and what about this, and what about that, so that they can constantly be looking at themselves in the mirror going, oh, I never thought about that. No, I don't want that, but I like that, but not that. I get to the end of the week, what's really interesting, and I say to them, you do all realize that during this week, you wrote 3 songs, you learned a hell of a lot, you met 26 other writers and bonded with them, and you took time out to eat 3 meals a day, 3 hours a day. You took 3 hours of your day to eat. And most of them are like, you know, I usually just grab something on the go and I never have time to eat. And it's like, and look at all that you accomplished. You did yoga every day, you ate every day, you wrote a song every day, you had connection every day. This is how you keep your life going forward. These are the things that you need to put in place. Because if you go home and sit down and lay on the couch, that's true procrastination. I wrote this for every 16-year-old that goes out and says to their parents, I want to be a songwriter, what do I need to put in place? And for the parents whose daughter or son comes up to them and says, what do I do? So that they'll be able to tell their kids what to do. So this is a 12-step program on, well, what do you have to do? You have to start writing songs. Well, what's a song? And if you don't write songs by yourself, then maybe you need to co-write. Well, what is co-writing? What does that look like? Then you're going to have to demo the songs. Well, how do I demo the songs? Well, let's start with GarageBand. Then you're going to have to copyright, and you're going to have to do the business. And then you're going to have to take a meeting. Well, what does that look like, taking a meeting? You're going to have to practice taking a meeting. You know, so there's self-motivation. If you're going to do this, you're going to have to be self-motivated. So what does that look like? What does that entail? So there's all these different steps that really put in place, again, based on my methodology and the foundation, which is laid out through the whole thing. Music publishing has changed slightly, okay? In that when I was a music publisher, and I'm born and bred music publisher, I was there to look after the songwriter, to make sure the songwriter was writing great songs. Because if the songwriter's not writing great songs, then we don't have a business. You know, Celine Dion doesn't have songs to go in to cut if the songwriters don't write them. So my job was to develop, to encourage, to nurture, to inspire these songwriters to do what they do. There are less of me's in that world these days, okay? Because the publishing world, as is the A&R, as the music business is, as everything is, it's a very tightly run business. So when you do have a song and a single, wow, they can collect, they can brand, they can market, they can distribute think about the distribution. You could sell 1 million downloads in a second, you know? Where before you'd have to physically go to a store and buy the, you know, so we've come a long way, baby. So now, if you're going to get a music publishing gig, then they want you to walk in with collateral. Okay, so they want you to walk in with, 50% of a Britney Spears cut. They want you to walk in with, you're already making money. It is harder to get a development deal where someone is going to put their ass on the line, knowing that it might take a couple of years before you are where you're supposed to be. So that is why there's so much development that has to go on before you get that meeting. You have to be ready. You have to have the songs. You don't just have to have a couple of songs that are great. You have to have 10 or 12 more in your back pocket, because when that meeting goes, well, these are really good. Now, I needed something for Faith Hill. What do you have for that? or I need something for this, or do you have anything in the country vein that I'd like to, that I could hear? If you just walk in with a couple of great songs, they're going to go, well, that's great, but where's the rest of them? Do it a couple of times, but show me that you can do it, over and over and over again. So that's the first thing. You have got to have the song. You have to have the attitude. You have to have the right attitude going in and be so professional and have, all your lyrics there and your story straight. You don't want to be wasting time. You don't want to be wasting your time or their time. It's interesting because it's the same advice I gave all my artists that I had signed to Warner Chappell and all the development deals that I did with all these artists trying to get record deals. I said, you do it yourself. You do it yourself until somebody comes along and says, wow, I love this. I'd love to invest in it. But you have to keep that mindset of, I just got to keep going. And how do I do this? It's interesting. I'd never written a book before, So I sat down and just started, okay, what do I think? What do I want? This actually was going to be a 10-page, 10-pointer on how to get a publishing deal, all right? And it turned into so much else because of the journey, because of the research. And that's what they need to do. They need to, every songwriter out there has got to self-develop themselves. And they have to figure out what that means to them. Okay? So it's about not going out thinking that you're going to find somebody who's magically going to take you in and go, and now I'll sprinkle fairy dust on you and you will become the artist you are. It's not like that. You have to do that work yourself. It's more than just, I can write a song. It is a lifestyle.